Thank you everyone for joining us for our Here for RYC webinar series. I'm happy to have Candice today to chat with us about increasing your business efficiencies and financial reporting in the cloud. So we'll have a presentation from her first, and then we'll have the Q&A, but feel free to submit your questions all throughout, and then we'll get them, try to answer them all towards the end. Thank you everyone, and thanks Candice.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the webinar. Thank you so much to the Chamber of Commerce for having me present this webinar today. My name is Candice McKay, and I work with the Catalyst Group out of Calgary. The Catalyst Group is a traditional accounting, tax, and advisory firm. So we do year ends, we do tax compliance, tax planning, advisory, valuations. My group specifically, the Catalyst Financial Operations or CFO group, works with clients a little bit differently in that we get involved in their day-to-day and month-to-month activities, helping with efficiencies in their business process, real-time data management, as well as their monthly reporting either to banks, to management, to owners, and start to help them advance their technology and their businesses, specifically through using what we call the tech stack, which is just a fancy term for some apps that are in the cloud that will help you bring your data management, your bookkeeping up to date and real time to help with your reporting. So why is real-time reporting important? Now, you can't map out a route to your destination if you don't know where you're starting from. So you need to know where your data is at. You need to know where your business is at currently in order to start mapping out a route into what you want to see your business evolve into or see what the future may hold. Now, I know that's kind of a funny statement to make during this COVID crisis. What I can tell you is that the businesses that we've been working with that do have real-time data and did have their data up to date pre-COVID have a much better idea of how this situation is going to affect their business now and into the future. And a lot of people are starting here with a pile of paper, a pile of receipts that need to be processed. They're waiting on somebody's desk. And maybe you're waiting for a statement to come in so you can start matching those, but it's a very manual process. Now, the apps that I'm going to talk about today seem very techy, but they're actually very simple. So if you're able to, on your go-to meeting, I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I just want you to raise your hand if any of the following are true. So do you have a cell phone? And if you do have a cell phone, do you have a smartphone? So an iPhone, an Android, a BlackBerry. If you do have a phone and you do have a smartphone, do you know how to open an app on your phone? And do you know how to, say, check your email on your phone or on your computer? Do you know how to visit a website? And can you log into a website? On your phone, are you able to open the camera and take a picture? Those are the very basic processes that are required to use these cloud-based apps and to be able to start getting your data into a usable form real time. Not only do the apps help you to bring your data up to date, but they also give you some more free time. So doing that in two ways. One, by moving some of that really heavy month-end work into the days of the month before what we would typically call month-end, but also to streamline some processes and allow the technology to do some of the work that would normally be manually done. So I always ask clients, what would you do with your extra time? Maybe you would spend some extra time with your family. Maybe you would tackle that kitchen renovation that you've been wanting to do. Maybe you have some time to do that. Or maybe you would just spend some time relaxing. Now, having real-time data also helps you make decisions because you know where you're starting from. So what decisions would you make in your business if you had your data up to date and knew where you were starting from? Would you maybe introduce a new product? Would you perhaps invest in a piece of equipment that you've been thinking about? Or maybe you're going to scrap an idea altogether based on the data. So in order to bring the data up to date, we use what's called the tech stack. And the tech stack is just a fancy term for a bunch of individual apps or softwares that work together to transfer data between each other. And I always liken it to a burger. So the individual parts of this burger can be very tasty on their own. So you have a patty, you have the cheese, the pickles, the vegetables, and a really nice, it looks like a really nice bun. Now, individually, those are all great, but when you put them together, in my opinion, they are much better. And that's how the tech stack works. They're individual apps that work together to make a much better product than the standalone products that they are. So this is the Catalyst tech stack, and this is just our basic stack. We'll go through the individual components, but right now I just want to give you a very brief preview. So in the top left corner is an app called Receipt Bank, and Receipt Bank is going to be your new inbox for almost everything. So for receipts, for invoices, any kind of information that you would need to get to your data manager or a staff member that's doing your data management, that's going to be your new inbox. That's going to be, you know, your mailbox for everything. Next to that, we have QuickBooks Online, or QBO, and that's going to be your accounting home. That is going to be where your financial records reside, and it's going to talk back and forth to Receipt Bank. Next is an app called Plooto, and it does electronic payments. Now, in the cases of Receipt Bank, QBO, and Plooto, there are other apps that do similar functions. So for Receipt Bank, one of the biggest competitors is called HubDoc. Some of you may have heard of it. For QBO, same thing. There are some other cloud accounting apps such as Xero, and same with Plooto. There are other electronic payment apps. This is the stack that we commonly use with our clients. We find that it works the best together, but that's not saying that there's nothing else out there that does the same thing. We also have Excel. It doesn't seem to be an application that we're going to get rid of anytime soon. Whether you have you know, sophisticated inventory that you need to track outside of the accounting, whether you have non-financial data that doesn't necessarily go into the accounting records, or even if it's just tracking, it seems that all of our clients still use Excel. The reason that Excel is up there specifically is because we use an app called Spotlight Reporting to do management reporting and month-end reporting, excuse me, for clients. It speaks directly to QBO, but it also speaks directly to anything that you can get into Excel. So it's really going to bring your accounting and your kind of auxiliary apps together into your reporting. So if you do have tracking or non-financial data that you're keeping in Excel that's not in your accounting, you can now bring that all together into one report, one management reporting module. And of course, we have the bank, which talks to Plooto, obviously, to make the electronic payments, but it also talks to QBO, and we'll talk about that when we get to the QBO slide. So like I said, Receipt Bank is your new inbox. So whether you keep your data, your receipts and everything in a shoebox, in a grocery bag, in a file box, I like to drive around with receipts in the glove box of my truck. That just seems to be where they are. This is your virtual inbox for collecting all of those loose ends and paper items. So it captures images of receipts, invoices, any supporting documents, statements. It can capture sales invoices and purchase invoices, POs, settlements. Anything that you can take a picture of can be captured in Receipt Bank. You can submit the screen captures through the app, which would reside on your phone, or through email. You can also drag and drop into Receipt Bank. You can browse and upload. There's a number of ways that you can get information into Receipt Bank, and all very simple. So Receipt Bank uses a technology called OCR, which is optical character recognition. And optical character recognition uses patterns and feature algorithms to recognize typed and written text. So whether the invoice or receipt is handwritten and or typed, printed out of a machine, Receipt Bank generally can read both types. Now, if the written text is very messy, just like a human, it is difficult sometimes to read. But in most cases, it's very good at reading handwritten text as well. And this is actually not a new technology. So the US Postal Service has actually been using this technology since the 1960s to sort mail, to sort addressed letter mail that comes through their system. The other thing about Receipt Bank is that the app processes literally millions of documents through their app every month. And the part about the OCR is that the more Receipt Bank sees, the more documents and characters that go through the process, go through the app, the smarter Receipt Bank gets. So the benefits of Receipt Bank, you're going to reduce your time entering invoices and receipts. You are going to have real-time submission of data. So instead of my fuel receipt driving around in the glove box of my truck, instead I get into my truck, I snap a picture of it, and then it's into the system and into the data management so that they can process it. You can reduce keying errors because it's reading it by OCR and setting up rules on how things are processed. You improve the consistency of your coding, again, through rules and through memorization through Receipt Bank. One really nice feature of Receipt Bank is if you have employees or management that are completing expense reports, you can now bundle all of those receipts into one expense report in Receipt Bank, and it's a one-click publish into your accounting system, into QuickBooks Online. So instead of filling out those Excel templates and having all of that backup scanned and attached or stapled to the back of that sheet, now you're completing your expense reports in Receipt Bank. It also functions as a filing cabinet. So once you've published an item, it stays in the archive for 7 years, which is CRA compliant. This also makes things like GST reviews very simple. You can go in and search the archive, search for certain vendors, amounts, dates, and it's going to pull up a PDF image or JPEG image of the receipt right there. So in the old way of workflow, you would go, for example, like I said, go and get fuel. You're going to get the receipt, paper receipt. It's going to drive around in my glove box for a little bit. The next time I'm in the office, hopefully I remember to give it to the office. Then there's going to be some data entry, and then they're going to file the receipt. Now, in the new way, using Receipt Bank, I'm going to go and get fuel, and I'm going to immediately take a picture of the receipt that gets spit out of the pump. So this is Receipt Bank, this is the platform, and you can see that there are 2 fuel receipts in here for that were submitted by me. So you can see the user who submitted it. You can also scale up or down user privileges based on what they should see and what they shouldn't see. So how this is set up is I can only see my receipts, I can't see anybody else's receipts. I am able to create an expense report for myself. That can also be locked down if you had somebody that was creating expense reports for somebody else. So it's important to note that I have done absolutely nothing to these receipts except for take a picture from the app on my phone and submit it. So if we take a look at these, this is from the High River Gas Bar, which is co-op, which is where I frequently buy fuel. Receipt Bank has read all of this for me. So it's read the date from the receipt. It's read where it's from. This link right here, that's a closed link, tells me that that vendor exists in QBO. So now we have a direct link to our vendor in QBO. It's pulled out the currency. It's pulled out the amount, the total amount of the receipt. It's also pulled out the GST amount from the receipt. Because I almost always buy just fuel here, and generally nothing else, I've set it up, and Receipt Bank has remembered that in general, High River Gas Bar is going to be coded to my account 6160 gas. The other thing that it's done is it's recognized that this is a receipt, so it's something that's paid. It's not something that's going to go into accounts payable. And also recognizes which card it was paid on based on the last 4 digits that exist on the receipt. So now this is going to be coded directly to my credit card feed in QBO. So once we've checked all of that, and talking through it takes way longer, but once we've checked all that, we're going to hit publish, and it's going to take us to the next receipt. So again, we almost always buy our fuel at co-op. The co-op in Okotoks, their receipt is a little bit different, but it has pulled up the vendor, same thing, it has pulled up the amounts, the tax amounts, who it's been paid by. You can pull by class and location, so if you are tracking different classes in QBO, they will feed right into here. If you're tracking different locations in QBO, same thing. I am not, that is just for illustration. And anytime you make a change in Receipt Bank, you'll see this come up, and it will ask you if you want to apply the same settings to any other inbox items or to future items, which is really handy. So if this was the first time I was transacting this, I would click both of those, so long as I'd normally just buy fuel there. Click apply, and then it would apply it to all future and inbox items. So again, I'm just going to click publish, and we will come back to that in just 1 second. So in the new way, we have the receipt, we capture the receipt, or whoever is responsible for that card captures that receipt. It's reviewed in Receipt Bank, and then it's published out of Receipt Bank. So you're not manually doing the data entry to put that information into the system. Now, Receipt Bank can also do this for invoices. So supplier invoices that you get that are going to go into payables. So in the old way of doing things, you would generally go to the mail, check the mail, code the invoice, manually enter it into the system, and then file it. In Receipt Bank, there is a dedicated Receipt Bank email address. So best case scenario is you have your supplier email right into that email address. It goes directly into Receipt Bank. Then you have a review and you publish it out of Receipt Bank, and it goes into your accounts payable in QBO. Now, Receipt Bank can be set up to automatically publish. I do not have any clients that we do that. I always suggest that there's a gatekeeper that just takes a look at things very quickly. Like I said, it takes literally seconds before things get published into your accounting records. You can still change them once they get into your accounting records, but far better to catch them before they get into the records. So QuickBooks Online, like I said, is going to be your new home for your accounting records, and it is a cloud-based accounting application. And before I get a ton of questions, because there always is, is the cloud safe? I know there have been a lot of questions about safety over the internet, specifically with respect to Zoom and lately with COVID. So I just want you to keep some of these things in mind and with respect to your current accounting processes. So in QBO, the data is written to 2 hard drives every day. The data is periodically copied to a 3rd hard drive, and there's tape backups every night. So now you have a tape backup and you have a hard drive backup. There is virus protection, there is firewall protection, and it is accessed using an ID and a password. So it's very, I wouldn't say rare, but in general, if you have a really robust backup process for your current accounting, this is usually what it looks like. It is very safe. We do actually take one more measure at Catalyst in using another backup app called Rewind, which allows you to go back to a point in time in your accounting record. So if you've made an error or if the file becomes corrupted, you are able to now go back to that file at a point in time when you know that the data was good. With the QuickBooks Online backup, it's going to back up just whatever is there. So if the file becomes corrupted, you're backing up a corrupted file. And I always say, if there's nothing else that you take away from today, it's that, 1, make sure that your accounting process, whatever you're using, is following something very similar to what's on the page now. And 2, if you are using QuickBooks Online already, definitely look into Rewind, the app, to do the backups to a point in time. It's very inexpensive and definitely can save you a lot of headaches if you need to go back to your accounting records at a point in time. So we have a happy little cloud. Now, there's not a lot that actually goes on in QBO when you're using Receipt Bank to publish items into QBO, because as you saw, it reads most of the data. There's not a lot of data entry. So in QBO, what we use it for is to match transactions. So match transactions from Receipt Bank to the bank feeds that are set up in QBO. We can use it for accounts receivable invoicing, which is really nice. The invoices are sent automatically through email from QBO. You can then see if your customer has opened the email when they opened it, making follow-up a lot easier. The bank reconciliations are very quick because the bank transactions are actually fed into QuickBooks Online, and it's just a matter of matching and clearing. And also you would do preparing your GST filing in QuickBooks Online. Now, the benefits of QuickBooks Online is it's easy to access and share your data. So you can share it with your accountant, you can share it with your data management person, and any of those people can access the data anywhere that they have an internet connection. The updates are really easy. So instead of having this big, robust year-end update, you literally just click refresh. QuickBooks Online prompts you to do that, and you're good to go. You're now downloading your bank and credit card feeds. So all of the bank and credit card transactions that go through the bank are now fed right into QuickBooks Online, which I feel is the biggest benefit of using QuickBooks Online and most efficient process. And it also syncs with hundreds of Intuit approved apps. So billing, CRMs, e-commerce, inventory, you name it, there definitely is an app for that. So this is our QBO dashboard. And as you can see, we have our checking account and our MasterCard pulling straight through from the bank. And you can see that, so this is the bank feed here. You can see that there's 2 transactions that have come through on my MasterCard. One for High River Gas Bar. So here's the detail from the bank. and one for Calgary Co-op. Now, because we've published those receipts already from Receipt Bank, QBO takes a look at the dates and the amounts and the vendor and recognizes that there is a match. So when this happens, I recommend two things. Take a quick look at the dates, take a quick look at the amounts, make sure that they're actually a match. For things that you do often like fuel or Starbucks or whatever, you're going to want to make sure that you're capturing the right receipt with the right transaction, especially if they're similar amounts. So if I wasn't totally sure that this was the correct amount, I would just expand that. So it's just a one click. And I would take a look at the bill. Now, every bill that gets published from Receipt Bank is going to have a JPEG on it. And now I can actually look at the receipt. So this is the receipt right out of Receipt Bank. So I'm satisfied with that. And you would do that generally on a weekly basis with your credit card feed, match those up. There's no more waiting for statements. There's no more big, long process to get your month end done. It's literally just a click of a button to process those transactions. So in the old way, you would be sitting waiting for the month-end statement, then you would match all of those receipts that you have sitting on your desk to the statement. You would enter the data into your accounting records and you would reconcile. However, in the new way of doing things with QBO, you download your credit card feed right to QBO, you match based on the receipts that you've published out of Receipt Bank, and now you're reconciled. Plooto is the electronic payment app, so it makes online payments. You only need an email address to pay suppliers. It works very similar to an Interac e-transfer. The nice thing about Plooto and the way that it's different from doing e-transfers from your bank is that all of the payable information comes from QBO into a listing in Plooto where you can tick off who you want to pay. The other thing that it does is that when you decide who to pay and approve those payments, Plooto now talks back to QBO, relieves those vendor accounts, and makes the entries to record that payment. So you're not, normally when you would do that in the bank, now you would have to go back into the accounting records, record the payments manually, and then you would be finished. In most cases, it's cheaper than printing and mailing checks when you consider that you have to buy specific check paper, you have to take the time to go to the post office, put stamps on it, the time that it takes for somebody to do that. It also allows tracking of payment, so it can show you when a payment has been received by the supplier. And again, like I said, there's no more double entry of e-payments. So this is what it looks like inside. All of the accounts payable information would come from QBO with amounts, and the bill amounts and the due dates would come in. And then all you would do is just click these on whichever ones that you wanted to pay and submit them for payment. Now, some of these, if they're published from Receipt Bank into QBO and have supporting attachments, you can actually view those attachments right from here. So it's very similar to the old school way of where you would have a check batch and you would have the check and then you would have all of the receipts behind and you would be able to flip through. That's essentially what you're doing here. So in the old way, you would have a check batch, you would print the checks, you'd prepare the mail, and somebody would go to the post office and send them away. In the new way of doing things with Plooto, you would open Plooto, you choose the payments, and you approve them. Now, Plooto can be set up several different ways for approvers. What we always recommend is that you have somebody that can set up the payments and then a different person approving them. But there's a multitude of options for payment approvals in Plooto. So that brings us to our Spotlight reporting. Like I said, it's a very powerful reporting app. It can be used for forecasting and budgets, for visual dashboards. And the nice thing about Spotlight that I like specifically is that it will consolidate multiple QBO files into one consolidated reporting. So if you have several different entities, but you report on a combined basis, Spotlight reporting will be able to take all of those individual files and consolidate them for you. The benefits of it, obviously, it's syncing to your QBO, which is now up to date real time. So you literally have up to the minute reporting. It's a very visual app. So there's a lot of visual charts, graphs, and trends. You can track financial data that comes from QBO, but you can also track non-financial KPIs that might be housed somewhere else. And everything is customizable to the organization and to what you need to see for your reporting. So this is just a really quick screenshot of what the reporting can look like. So you can see it just kind of jumps right out at you. So very simple reporting, very visual reporting, showing trend lines. This one's one of my favorites. So the current month's cash, where is it coming from and where is it going to? You can track your revenue and EBITDA. You can track periods from this year to last year, or this month to last month, or this month to last year, the same month. You can also track some of your covenants. And like I said, it speaks right to QBO. So if we look at our stack again, we have Receipt Bank, which is our inbox. We have QBO, which is our accounting home. We have Plooto, which is our electronic payment app. We also have Excel in case we have anything that's not in our accounting records that needs to go into Spotlight. And Spotlight is our reporting home. Now, I know that was a lot of information to cover, but I am always free for questions. You are more than welcome to email questions to me at the email that's on the screen. You can give me a call at the number that's on the screen. That is my office line. It's currently ringing through to my cell phone as we have closed our office and are working from home. And I think that we have some time to take some questions right now. So if you have any, I would be more than happy to take them right now.
Hey, Candice, looks like you're muted.
There we go. So if you do have any questions, you can definitely submit them through the app, through the chat. And it does look, what things should be considered before transitioning, training costs. So one thing that I should mention is that when we start working with clients on the tech stack, the year-end compliance, so the financial statements and the tax return, and then the work that we do with the tech stack are actually mutually exclusive. So if we're working with clients, lots of times they do have external accountants that take care of their compliance, and that's not a relationship that we want to step on any toes. So you can still transition to the tech stack using our services, but you don't have to transition your year-end and tax compliance. So that's definitely important. In terms of transitioning, there is some cleanup that we like to do with your current files, making sure that all of your accounts payable, your accounts receivable accounts are cleaned up, that your chart of accounts is clean, certain reconciliations need to be done. The transition from your current records into QBO really depends on what you're currently using. Obviously, if you're using QuickBooks Desktop, that's a lot easier transition to QBO because you know, they're meant to talk to each other, but we can do Sage and other accounting softwares. If worst case scenario is you would do what we call a clean install into QBO, where you take your chart of accounts and your trial balance and your accounts payable, accounts receivable, and do like a clean, fresh install where you wouldn't have all of the history from your last accounting package, that would remain in your what you're currently using, and then QBO would kind of be from this point forward. We do, when we set clients up, we do provide all of the training. It's usually done over Zoom and recorded so that you can go back and look at the training and see. Sometimes when you're going through it initially, you don't know what questions to ask, or it seems really simple, and then you go back to do it yourself and it doesn't quite work the same, or you don't remember where certain things are. So we do record it and provide that to clients. The cost to do the transition training really depends on the client. It depends on whether you're going to be on that basic stack that I showed you, or whether we need to incorporate some other apps, including something like inventory or point of sale, e-commerce. There's a bunch of other apps that talk to QBO, and also whether we're doing just a clean, fresh install, or whether we're actually doing what we call a conversion. So from your current accounting records and bringing all of that history in, how large the chart of accounts are. There's a lot of factors that do that. It is flat fee, so we do just provide a project quote, and that is what you pay. There's no surprises after that. And then we can leave you on your way, let your staff handle it, or for some clients, we actually do their data management as well. So it really depends, but there are, like I said, there are some factors in transitioning, making sure that your accounting records are clean and up to date, and then picking a really good stopping point to move into QBO. Next, have we noticed an increase since COVID? Yes, definitely. A lot of so the CFO group is specifically has their own client group, but we also have our full client group from the traditional firm, so from the year-end compliance and tax compliance side. A lot of those clients that were on the fence initially to transition to cloud accounting have now come back and decided to move towards something that's more online so that they have access to their records. We did have one year-end client, unfortunately, that was away and came home to have to self-isolate for 14 days, and she didn't have access to her records for 14 days because everything was on a computer in the office that she couldn't access. So we have noticed an increase in this. Clients that are already on the tech stack haven't had any disruption in how they work because their staff are still just working from home. And again, they just need an internet connection to be able to access the records and do their job.
I think that's it for questions, Candice. Oh, I guess we have one more here.
Okay.
Let's see.
Do we offer CFO strategic services as well? Yes, that's actually where I would come in. So we do have a staff of data managers, controllers, senior controllers, and CFOs. So I'm the president, but also one of the CFOs in the group. Our client base is very diversified, I would say, in terms of industry, size, and also their CFO needs. So for some clients, it's just the onboarding to the tech stack, we take care of their data, and we do some management reporting, just very basic kind of financial statements, P&L, and the spotlight reporting that you saw. And for some clients, they have all of their internal staff, they have their data on site or within their employee group, and then myself and senior controllers, CFOs, step in and help management with the risk management, strategic governance, and we never actually really, excuse me, touch their data, but we do provide that kind of strategic, you know, the cash flow projections, strategy, dealing with the bank, doing the bank reporting, refinancing, all of that is housed in our group. So the purpose of the group when it was originally started was to be able to fill holes in clients' org chart. So if you need some CFO, but you're not maybe big enough or in a position that you can hire a full-time CFO, you can hire on contract basically a CFO for part-time if you just need them for a few hours a month or a few hours a week. We do provide that service.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Candice. I think this was a very topical conversation. I think a lot of people are interested in that, in moving to the cloud if they're not already there, especially now. So we really
For
appreciate
sure.
you coming home.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Have a good one.
Hey, you too.